Put it together for John Baylor.
Thank you. Hello. Greetings. Well, you just heard from one of the greatest college football coaches of all time, and now a former decorated junior varsity high school player with more sweatbands than tackles. When I switched to cross-country running, exactly 0 people urged me to reconsider. Hello, scholars. Let me get this straight. We're going to give you $500 to $1,500 later, and you have free lunch, and you got out of school. I think you got a good Tuesday going. Well, let me be a little more serious with you today, in hopes that you'll seriously consider my message. Today I'm going to be very intentional, because it involves students, teachers, and those who lead our schools, and they deserve only the best. My thesis today is a basis for my new book available this summer, Reaching Higher, One Simple Strategy to Transform America's K-12 Schools. I have taught test preparation for 20 years. Many of you have sent me your children. Now I hope they've recovered from the emotional trauma, and I hope that they jumped their scores and increased their college choices and saved you a ton of dough. And thank you so much for sending it to me. John Baylor Prep now has 17 people working with us, and it's used by more than 350 high schools in 17 states to improve ACT scores and the school's culture. So drawing on this experience, I believe there now exists a disconnect between the mission of our K-12 schools and what's best for our students. Thus, our K-12 schools simply need an updated mission. Rather than developing lifelong learners or tolerant global citizens, I believe that our K-12 schools should focus on one powerful goal, which would then guide all policy: creating 2- and 4-year college graduates with minimal debt. So simple, motivational, clarifying, and transformative. We create 2- and 4-year college graduates with minimal debt. So today I want to explain 3 things. 1, why we need this new mission. 2, how there's this disconnect between the expectations of our K-12 schools and the demands of people like you wanting to hire skilled people to help your businesses. And how this new mission will transform our schools and our students now and for the rest of their lives. Number 1, why do our K-12 schools need a new mission or expectation for all students? It's due to the demanding, hyper-competitive economic reality they're soon to confront. You see, there are 2 unyielding global economic forces that are taking jobs and making life increasingly difficult for those without real skills and knowledge. The first goes by many names: technology, intelligent machines, artificial intelligence, robots. Henry Ford built cars with people. Tesla Motors builds cars with robots. 100 years ago, about 40% of U.S. workers worked in agriculture. Now, less than 2%. And I know what you're thinking, we're eating a lot less. That's a really bad guess. Tractors, combines are so much more efficient at taking care of our crops than humans could be. Technology allows very few human laborers to serve very many. One of America's iconic brands, Kodak, in the late 80s, had 145,000 employees. How many employees does Kodak have today? 0. Because in 2012, Kodak went bankrupt. And one of its successor, brand new photographic photo companies, when it sold a couple years ago for $1 billion, it didn't have 145,000 employees. Instagram, when it sold, had 13. And WhatsApp, when it sold last year, it sold for $1 billion, it sold for $19 billion. It didn't have 145,000 employees, it had 55. In fact, in 2014, Oxford University predicted that within 20 years, 2 decades, 47% of current U.S. professions will be automated. Nearly half of U.S. professions currently, according to this study, expected to be automated. That's a game changer. We want skills and knowledge to compete effectively rather than be replaced replaced by technology. But there's a second global force making life increasingly difficult for those who are unprepared. Inexpensive foreign labor. DeWitt, Nebraska, the home formerly of that wonderful company, Vice Grip. In the late 80s, 750 people a day would descend into that small hamlet and build these great innovative tools. And guess how many people go into DeWitt every day to build Vice Grips? 0. They are building a city across the river from Hong Kong with 10 million people. Because laborers in China will go to the city and live in manufacturing compounds, dormitories really, and cross the street to work 12-hour shifts for less than $3 an hour. Often less, much less than $3 an hour. Now, no one from China or India or Central America could take our jobs when my generation left school. And certainly no robot could replace us when we left school. And now thousands of those robots deliver pink slips to displaced workers, sending them off to community colleges for retraining. Think of how much more competitive it is to secure well-paid employment today. When my grandfather and father worked, they competed against American men for gainful employment. I and my generation competed against American men and women, certainly when we left school. This generation will compete against 3 potent forces: American men and women, inexpensive foreign men and women, and intelligent machines. And those last 2 are more potent, more capable, more affordable every month. Harvard professor and former Massachusetts Secretary of Education Director Paul Revell puts it this way: the only way we're going to grow our economy is if we have our children coming out of school with the knowledge and skill able to drive high-knowledge, high-skills businesses. Here's my translation. We need to make sure you and all K-12 students get real skills and knowledge, because without them, you're vulnerable to being automated or outsourced. So what's a proven pathway to true skills and knowledge and the freedom to best leverage them? A 2- or 4-year college degree. But don't forget this prepositional phrase: with minimal debt. Last year, I remember a Bryant Heating and Air leader told me, over the phone, we would hire a newly minted Southeast Community College welding graduate for $35,000 a year. Our culture needs these technicians and these skilled laborers, and community colleges prepares them very well for merely $5,000 a year approximately. Our generation could graduate from high school and get a job as a car mechanic or tradesman. Not anymore. Those jobs are much more complicated now and require much more training. A 4-year degree in a STEM field, science, technology, engineering, and math, arms young people with powerful skills in this technologically driven world. A humanities degree should arm them as well with communication and critical thinking skills that thrive in this fast-paced world where change is the only constant. Let's quantify what an affordable degree, why an affordable degree matters so much. Versus 4-year college graduates, high school graduates have more than twice the unemployment rate and make about 45% less annually. High school graduates, those with mere high school degrees, have more than twice the unemployment rate and make about half as much. And that gap continues to widen largely because of the influence of technology and inexpensive foreign labor. Here's the bottom line. We simply improve the life's chances of our students when we turn them into 2- and 4-year college graduates with minimal debt. And isn't improving our students' lives the purpose of our schools? Of course, there are many successful people in this room without 2- or 4-year college degrees, but we had years in the workplace to hone our skills before intelligent machines and inexpensive foreign labor became so accessible and so affordable. Our K-12 students today will enter such a world. And further, you are owners, which makes you much more likely to benefit from less expensive means production rather than compete against them. And of course, there's some well-paying careers out there that do not require college, but the list is short. Number 2, our more competitive workplace creates expectations that are often disconnected from or misaligned with the expectations of our K-12 schools. One educator put it to me this way. She said, all my administrators care about are NISA scores and high school graduation rates. An administrator admitted to me, that's right. NISA scores and high school graduation rates are our end game. And that's what we ask of them to care about. They're simply following our priorities. Test the heck out of our kids and get them high school. My 4th grader, Antonia, told me last year, Daddy, I did great on my NISA test today. And I said, terrific. She said, well, we've been preparing for it for weeks. Teachers are fed up. spend so much time preparing my kids for these tests. She wanted to teach. Yes, we do need some diagnostic test scores occasionally to get an objective partial measure of progress. But the current annual obsession with NISA test scores is excessive in its draining enthusiasm from students and teachers. Further, we've had more than a decade of No Child Left Behind, and it's high-stakes testing with little progress to show for it. And yes, high school graduation rates do matter, but not as an end. Intelligent machines and inexpensive foreign labor have moved those goalposts. High school graduation has become a means to the new goal, a 2 or 4 year college degree with minimal debt. Making annual diagnostic test scores the hammer with which we judge schools and teachers is like saying the Husker athlete's performance index testing matters more than how they play on Saturday. And measuring high school graduation rates rather than college graduation rates is like saying the score at the end of the third quarter matters more than the score at the end of the game. Number 3, how this new mission will transform our schools and our students now and in the future. First, it's motivational. When I speak to students about the importance of real skills and knowledge in this hyper-competitive economy, you can hear the ventilation humming. Even the slackers get it. And I remember when I spoke to a careers class recently about this, a senior stood up, literally, and explained, why didn't they tell us any of this? I didn't know any of this. He literally, at the end of the class, walked up to his teacher and said, what does he have to do to jump his grade? The message motivates. And more motivated students create happier teachers. This is a mission that benefits both. Second, it's measurable. All high schools can easily track their 2 or 4 year college graduation rate for a nominal fee with the National Clearinghouse. That which gets measured gets done. The score at the end of the game should matter a lot more than the score at the end of the third quarter. Third, it's meaningful. Unlike that other measurable goal, annual, high-stakes, grade-level diagnostic test scores that offer little benefit to students, a 2 or 4 year degree with minimal debt actually helps them. Fourth, it's feasible. It's a myth that a 4 year college has to cost too much. There are dozens of 4 year colleges in this country that bust that myth for any U.S. resident. Weber State, North Dakota State, Northwest Missouri State, Central Michigan, University of Alabama, Tuscaloosa, Alabama, Huntsville, our own Peru, Wayne, and Shattern. These all bust this myth that a 4 year college has to cost too much. To retire all college student loan debt, no college graduate in this country should have to pay any more than $215 a month through the age of 30. A manageable amount for life-changing and skills and knowledge. The fifth reason, the new mission clarifies. All policy can now be compared against its overarching goal. Curriculum, discipline, home.hire, the calendar, fighting the summer slide, the priority of giving our hard-working college counseling offices, the scheduling of athletic events during the school day or on ACT Saturdays. All can be compared against this barometer. Does it serve our goal of creating 2 or 4 year college graduates with minimal debt? 6, it aligns the school's mission with the demands of employers and the interests of students, whether they appreciate it yet or not. Here's an illustration of what happens currently when the goals of our schools and our families are not perfectly aligned. And again, I'm not criticizing our school leaders. They're prioritizing what our system values. I'm saying we need to change those values so they can better serve our students and our teachers. Currently, high school seniors often sleep in and don't take their December ACT, even though a higher score on that final test might mean free tuition at one of our best colleges. Our low-income students often don't realize how feasible college really is for them because they qualify for need-based aid, of course, if they just take care of their grades and scores. Many apathetic, low-income students have little idea of the college or future opportunities they are ruining. With only 1 in 10 low-income students nationally graduating from college, we have a moral imperative to ensure they learn very early that college can be their economic launching pad. If you want to spend less money on social programs, let's do this. And one more example. A Nebraska Community College representative told me recently about 50% of his first-year full-time community college students take remedial classes. About 50%. And I said, what do the local communities say in response when they learn that so many of their recent alumni are taking high school do-over classes? And he said, he's rarely been asked. This, even though remedial classes indicate that a student is unlikely to ever graduate. Less than 1 in 4 remedial students earn a degree within 8 years. Without a college graduation mission, K-12 schools rarely focus post-high school. Despite working with more than 350 high schools in this country, I don't know of a single one that tracks its 2 or 4-year college and high school graduation rate. The cover of our school's annual report should have the 10-year trend for 2 and 4-year college graduation rate. Imagine the transformative effect if this state decided that our K-12 schools will be guided by this one clear overarching goal. Imagine how much more motivated our students and parents would be with a full understanding of this hyper-competitive world they're about to enter. Imagine the clarity our educators would have, working towards measurable goals and actually help students. Imagine how much more accountable we'll make our colleges to be rigorous and affordable. Imagine how much easier it will be to find qualified job applicants. Imagine how many more job creators we'll create. So scholars, the scholarships you will win today are our way of urging you to champion this mission in your own lives. Be sure by age 24 you've got it, that piece of paper, a 2 or 4-year college degree with minimal debt. And that gift from us should make it much easier to make sure you accomplish it with minimal debt. And implementing this new mission within Nebraska's K-12 schools would cost very little. But it would require the courage to recognize that expectations have progressed. And so must the means which we assess our schools. Just as they, for about 15 years, have dutifully focused on test scores and high school graduation rates, they can successfully follow an expectation. We have great schools in this state. They just need a better mission. Thank you.